research management. Projects that we're working on, among many, one in particular is this project, the RIBI 4AC project that is research and innovation management improvement for Africa and the Caribbean. Thank you.
My name is Felix Akindadejo. I am from the Faculty of Engineering and Computing at UTech. I manage the research and entrepreneurship activity for the faculty as a coordinator representing the School of Graduate Study Research and Entrepreneurship. My interest right now is the use of ICT in the health sector. So I want to see how ICT is applied to health, especially rehabilitation management of acute stroke patients. So I'm here to learn as research manager and at the same time see opportunity as a researcher, how I can get going. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Robert Logan. My job title at the College of Agricultural Science and Education is Research and Outreach Coordinator in the Faculty of Agriculture. And basically, part of my job is to function as a research manager for the faculty, other than not really a manager. Thanks.
I'm Christopher Smelly. I'm from the National Council on Geography, and I am the research officer there. And we fall under the Ministry of Health.
I am Ruth Potapsi, and I'm the Director of Sustainable Energy in the School of Graduate Studies, Research and Entrepreneurship. My interests, among other things, lie in the research capabilities of the university, enhancing research in energy, renewable energy, alternative energy, community development, climate change, and environment. Thank you. Is
it my turn? Debbie Gordon Smith, also from UTech. I'm from the Faculty of Science and Sport. I'm the director of the Center for, ready for it, Science-Based Research, Entrepreneurship, and Continuing Studies. Basically, acronym is CSREX. Basically, we facilitate, monitor, encourage all the research activities in our relatively new faculty, so we've been around 2 years. Anything to do with research, graduate studies, entrepreneurial activities such as consultancy projects, continuing education courses, all of those things. And from a personal point of view, I'm also a chemist. So I'm also a researcher in environmental chemistry.
Again, I'm Indira Jackson. I'm at the UWI St. Augustine campus. I belong to a wonderful team, and my course, along with my other colleagues, is a business development manager, which we have four. Among our roles, one of my responsibilities is right here is to advance the research effort of the university, and specifically the St. Augustine campus where I live. I'm very much interested this year, having done some more readings and figuring out how, years of understanding how to figure out and strategize and win proposals. I'm very much interested in the issue of communicating the research that wins the appeal of issues of sustainability, impact, and those important issues that we're seeing coming up in proposals, the issue of multidisciplinary pursuits. And at the St. Augustine campus, I seem to be moving towards finding particular ways to advance the research efforts of our younger researchers and administration support that provides the sort of, I would say, I hate saying support in the research effort, because I think administrative staff probably don't only support research effort, we're a part of the research effort. So that's the sort of interest I have. Thank you very much.
I am Laura, who I work with Indira as a business development manager at the St. Augustine. My responsibilities lie more in the area of research contracts. I also look at the intellectual property issues relating to projects, but in general on the campus, and I'm also focusing now on trying to develop a capacity in commercializing research.
Yes, good day. I'm Donald Sumail. I'm the Director of the Caribbean Health Research Council. It is a curriculum institution based in Trinidad. Our primary mandate is to promote, coordinate, and support health research throughout the Caribbean. Perhaps we are best known for our annual research conference, which will be held next year. It's our 57th annual conference. In the Cayman Islands. I encourage everyone to participate in that. The content is that we have moved from medical research to health research to more research for health, which are critical differences, meaning that we encourage all fields to contribute towards the evidence to really support health. So whether it's engineering or natural sciences, everybody has a role to play in actually conducting the research that they're looking for.
Hi everyone, I'm Shelley Anton, also from CHRC. What I would like to highlight is that we have recently developed the Health Research Agenda for the Caribbean. It is available on our website, www.chrc-caribbean.org. The agenda is a list of health research priorities that was developed to complement the CCH3, which is the Caribbean Cooperation in Health, third edition, and we want to talk. So we could talk a little bit. Feel free to come to me during the lunchtime. The agenda is to serve as a guide for research as well as for funding agencies. We plan to share it with the Ministries of Health, the universities, which will include UTEC and UP, throughout the Caribbean and 90 member countries.
Okay, I'm Paul Ivy. I'm an associate professor in the School of Graduate Studies Research and Entrepreneurship here at UTEC. I'm a former academic administrator turned research and innovation manager in that all the various projects that Ms. Street mentioned. So be reminded of what she said. We work together in terms of on all of those various projects. In terms of providing support to the research active faculty members, identifying funding opportunities, assisting with the completion of the application forms. These 72-page documents and others that are more voluminous, we pour through them and assist and guide the researchers in getting them completed and so on. We recently had a spot of good news where 2 of our proposals have been pre-selected by the EU. So we're keeping our fingers crossed in terms of the final selection and all of that. For the RIMI4 project, one of the deliverables is the establishment of Cabrino. I play an active role in that as well in terms of the development of the concept paper with other members of the School of Graduate Studies and so forth. So those are the various things that I do, among other things, here at the university.
My name is Leonie Clark. I am a lecturer here at the University of Technology. My responsibility, I'm in the Faculty of Education. My responsibility presently is I serve as the faculty's coordinator, representative from the School of Graduate Studies. My responsibility in my faculty right now, as I see, is to nurture research, nurture spirit of research. We have been teaching faculty, and so being engaged in research is not something that we are really much into, and so my responsibility is to foster that and to nurture that. And persons right now are engaged in looking at research into teaching strategies that facilitate learning and strategies that will extend education in the wider society. So that is where we are. Presently, I work with other lecturers and we have been collaborating. So we've been working with research in food and agriculture, actually, though we do not have agriculture here, but as a nutritionist, and concerned about food production for families, household food production. And so right now we're looking at developing machinery for the making of compost and so on. So that's where we are, and looking at integrating that into the curriculum. There's a reform of secondary education curriculum, and we are working with that as we go. That's where we are.
Hi everyone, I'm Julianne Grant, and first and foremost, I'm a chemist, a synthetic chemist, and that's where my passion really is. But recently I've been recruited by the Dean of the Faculty of General Life Sciences to serve as the Resource Mobilization Coordinator in the faculty, and that job includes helping researchers within the faculty, the academics, to seek out funding and to put together proposals, etc. My job is not necessarily confined to just the Faculty of Environmental Sciences. It's extended across the university, but for now I am working in Carolina. Thanks.
Hi, morning everyone. My name is Laura Levy. I work with the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI for short. We are an independent regional think tank. We are affiliated with the University of the West Indies. We have actually just moved on to the university campus here in Jamaica. We have an office in Barbados also. We will be moving on to the Cave office shortly. And we are interested in socio-economic policy research, informing public debates and informing sound policy development research. My background is in market research actually, and I'm the program manager there at Capri now. So, you know, all of the above. The finding the funding to keep us alive, because we are strictly project-based and we are not-for-profit. Of course, so funding is critical to keeping our small but diligent staff and research associates on board, and holding true to our mandate of developing research as well as disseminating it for the public and policymakers, and hopefully making a difference to the sound economic growth, not just of Jamaica, but all the Caribbean islands.
Good morning, everyone. I am Charmaine Hesler. I work as a Director of Research at the Consumer Affairs Commission. Our unit basically is trying to, currently we're doing a lot of a lot of price tracking. So we track the prices of grocery, petroleum products, and hardware items. But I'm trying to, along with my team, to expand the scope of research that we do so that we can be of more relevance to Jamaican consumers.
Good morning. I am Raquel Chambers. I am also at the Consumer Affairs Commission in the Research Department, and a part of Ms. Thomas's team that is looking to increase the kind of research that we do in Jamaica, and not just the impact consumers in Jamaica, but the region. So we're also looking to develop a national consumer policy through research so that we have evidence-based advocacy and consumer protection.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Ann Darman Dunn, and I am the manager for the Corporate Education Department at the University College of the Caribbean. Reporting to the Vice President of Regional International Development, one of my primary roles is identifying funding opportunities and condensing those 72-page documents for further review. Thank you.
My name is Enid McLemon, Associate Professor in the Department of Graduate Education and Leadership, Northern Caribbean University. Presently, I also serve as a research coordinator for the college, encouraging faculty to be engaged in individual as well as collaborative research, seeking funding, and also presently we are engaged in extending what we have been working on, and that is with cooperative learning, using cooperative and collaborative learning in the school system.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I am Lisa Myers Morgan. I I'm a Senior Research Director for the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. I currently manage their Montpelier Research Station, which is an outstation in St. James. I was formerly a Director of Research for Plant Protection. Now my portfolio includes livestock research as well. And I'm also the national coordinator for an FAO TCP project to manage citrus greening, which is a debilitating disease of citrus here in Jamaica.
Morning, everyone. I'm Pauline Gate-Benton. I'm also from Northern Caribbean University. I'm associated with the Department of Behavioral Sciences. Among the many things I do there, I'm supposed to get the other faculty members in the department interested in research, to encourage them to research. Several research projects that we are engaged in at the moment, but the focus are really on those community projects. And right now we have special interest in restorative justice practices and very much concerned about what is happening in the school violence, and trying to see how best we can work along with schools, teachers, students, administration in implementing restorative justice practice skills to see if we can help to stem school violence. Thanks.
Morning, everyone. I'm Ellen Campbell from the National Council on Drug Abuse, where I am Director of Information and Research, and also associated with the College of Health Sciences here at UTEC as an adjunct associate professor of pharmacy. And I am now head of fledgling organization through the college called the Caribbean Institute of Pharmacy Policy Practice and Research. We're going to be looking at some of those pharmaceutical devices and how they impact on practice and pharmacy practice and so on. At the National Council on Drug Abuse, though, we coordinate the government's response in the area of research and information to the problem of substance abuse. And so we have a lot of interest in the social science research that we do pretty regularly. But now some of the tobacco cessation issues and whether we can find some indigenous herbal responses to some of these issues. So I've learned a lot here this morning, and I'm so happy for the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Carly Gavin from the College of Agriculture, Science and Education, and I'm actually HOD of the Department of Biological Sciences. Largely my responsibilities and my responsibilities to engage the staff or to encourage the staff, and not only to encourage but to assist the staff in participating in research. The person who is supposed to be here is a counterpart to Dr. Logan, who is our research and outreach coordinator, but could not make it, so I'm here sitting. But what I've gained so far is one of the things that is so important is getting funding for your research, because largely staff will complain that they can't do research because there's no funding available, and so it is good to have people here to see the many options to do, along with our college is largely agricultural based, so our faculty is trying to do a lot of collaborative research in terms of agriculture so that we can be more beneficial to Jamaica.
Well, thank you all for sharing all this, because the purpose of these workshops is not only to listen, but to become active as well yourself, to share knowledge with your partners here during the coffee hour, during the lunch, during the discussion, general discussion we'll have tomorrow, to share on how do we go about this, to encourage colleagues to really engage in research next to their teaching burden, to engage in research that is meaningful for others too. How to convince evaluators that what you have in mind is valuable for them to invest in. One of the things there that always strikes me when we do a round table like this is that some people are very specific in their background and what they're doing, and others are much more generalist. The interesting thing is that ideally people should have sort of T-shaped skills, being a specialist in one area, or maybe two, but able to communicate it horizontally to other disciplines in non-technical words. And this is what most scientists are really struggling with. And you should be able to help them to get those depth of their knowledge horizontally out to other people that are not specialists in their discipline. If I talk about my old research in brain research and pharmacology, and I start talking about receptors and affinity curves, and half of you will probably go away very quickly. Especially if I talk a similar talk during a reception with a journalist. They will be bored in 1 minute. So how do you convert what you do or what you can offer in such a package that somebody else becomes interested? And not only that they understand what you're doing, that they become motivated to learn more. And this is the main trick that is really essential for scientists to be helped with. I designed this little exercise for you to conduct with your scientists and colleagues. And let's do it here. It's extremely simple. You don't need a PhD for this. But it's a way to change your mindset in your idea that you have. How do you present it to somebody else? First of all, as I said, you don't start with technical jargon. So try to avoid technical words. But even more importantly, most scientists start with what they have discovered, what is new. Why they are so interested and why this is so unique, what they have discovered. But most people are not interested in it. Only other scientists are interested in what they have discovered if they work in the same field. What most people are interested in is it useful, what they have discovered? How can you use it? Could you improve my life with it? Or can you save lives of children, of other people with it? Or can you improve plant security, or increase jobs, or make life more enjoyable? That is the first thing that you should get across. I have a potential solution for this problem. And that raises your level of interest. And then you can start talking about how you're going to do it. So a communication tool could be a small abstract like this. I forget about the top part. The core of the abstract, and this is the form that the European Union is using for abstracts of proposals. But I use it as a vehicle to get 3 messages across. What is the problem that you would like to attack? Is it an important problem, or is it a small thing that only interests a limited number of people? What is your clear objective? How do you want to attack that problem? If you have a disease, you want to improve diagnostics or therapeutics, or healthcare delivery with the existing therapeutics and diagnostics. That's a very different objective of approaching the same problem. If you have a problem of poverty, you can give people money, but you also can give them plants to grow and seeds, and so that they can grow their own vegetables. Those are 2 different approaches. So please be clear of how you want to attack the problem. And then a clear work plan. What is your step 1, 2, 3, 4? And that determines from what can you do. And do you need partners to take those steps? In a drug development program, this could be laboratory research, then testing out a candidate drug in animal studies, making sure that it's safe and non-toxic, and then design the first clinical study with patients. Those are 4 steps, standard. In agricultural projects, this could be you select plants, you select the way to conserve and distribute seeds, and maintain their quality. You look at how plants are sown and grown, how far apart, in which fields, how much water, how much fertilizer you use, how do you harvest, and when. Can you do it manually, or do you need equipment to do this? Are you working on small plots or on very large plots? If you work on large plots, what is the risk of diseases? and pesticides and things like that. And then finally, what is your expected outcome? Is it just one plot with new plants? Or do you transfer this knowledge to other farmers all over the world who can actually benefit from this? In clinical health, are you selecting a small group of patients with a rare disease, or are you attacking somebody with diagnostics for cancer? That's a big problem, right? Affecting a lot more people than a rare genetic disorder. So things like that makes it the link back to, are you attacking the whole problem or just part of the problem? And are you attacking something that is relevant for society or just a scientific idea? That last part of the abstract should be making a link to the funding program too. Because the evaluator will first look at the abstract and see, is it an important problem? Is it an appropriate idea, how they attack the problem? And does it fit my funding program? Maybe it fits another problem. And then they say, fantastic idea, but I'm not going to fund this one because it's not addressing the goal. So that is the very first filter. And you, as an internal pre-filter, should work together with the scientist to make sure that the proposals fit the goal. If they're outside the scope of the goal, and this is true for all the funding agencies, you will have no chance how good the idea might be. Now let's do a very first small exercise. Is there one volunteer or two who would like to present their project they're currently working on just in this way? Very, very briefly, 1 minute presentation. What is the problem? What is the work plan? And what is your expected outcome? Don't be shy. This is just among us. And let's be sure, you saw me fooling around with the video camera. This is only for you. We will not use it against you, not distribute it on the website. This is just for you so that you can capture the discussions and listen to the audio file afterwards. Nobody else will get the audio file. So, anybody?
I guess I can
Yes, please.
plunge in head first and give it a stab. Currently, Capri is working on a project with CREAL, which is funded by the IAB out of Washington, on education, a national education report card. It is a model that was developed by CREAL in South America and used successfully, and we did a study. How Capri works is based on demand in terms of policy development or current debate, populist debate, we will see a need for information. And so the need arose when there was a debate about paying teachers based on performance. And there was a lot of debate as to how would that be implemented, how would it be measured, how could they be paid. Teachers weren't for it, they were very unsure. Government didn't want to implement something that would be popular and so on. And there wasn't very many facts. So what we did is we did some research into it to see how people really felt and how it could practically be applied here in Jamaica. It was found that it would be applied. The Minister of Education said that if we did develop a national scorecard based on the research that we had done and the models that we had presented that were carried out in other Latin American countries, that he would be interested in the findings and utilize them. So we pressed ahead and did a proposal. And so that's the background. And so the problem really was that we do not have a measurable way, a clear way of measuring the performance of the education sector in Jamaica, not just the teachers, but the entire education.
Now you've made a clear one sentence objective.
Yes.
That's fantastic. I was waiting for that sentence. It's so hard because you started thinking, where do you come from, who am I, who could benefit, but you did not start with that one sentence. This is, we need a good way to measure education output. There are models, and that's the work plan.
Okay.
There are models, they may not be sufficient. We are going to compare them, analyze them, improve them, and then implement them in different environments. Those are the steps in the middle. But you forgot the first part. Only after explaining the work plan, then you start, oh yes, that's the problem we're working on. And it's so hard to summarize the whole program in just one sentence. And it really takes time. Like you did here, improvising on the spot. Most scientists don't take very much time to really describe what is the problem they want to attack. They love to talk about what they're going to do, but not why and what they want to do. And you started out with the beneficiaries, the stakeholders, the politicians who are involved, the ministry. That should belong to here, the last one. So structuring the message is very important to understand for somebody who is not in the field like me. Thank you. Yes?
I have another passion, which as a computer scientist, I want to see, and I'm trying to see how I go about it, the impact of computer graphics on juvenile violence and delinquency. Because I realize that, in these days of technology, young people are exposed to multimedia systems, graphical 3-dimensional games of various content. And there have been a lot of school of thought that this at times motivates their behavior in a certain way. And looking at the case in Jamaica, the rate of violence in this country now, especially at the high school level, is getting to an alarming rate. So I'm just looking not to probe into what is the influence of this graphical incursion into the juvenile's life versus the kind of violent behavior that we are seeing.
It's very interesting, but allow me to interrupt you for 1 second and just give you my impression as an outsider, what I hear. It's not what you said probably, or what you think, but what I hear on the receiving end. That is almost like a title of a scientific paper. It is very interesting, very concrete with technical words that I don't understand. And after a few sentences, I got the link that it has to do with community problems of violence, and you may have a technical instrument to help with that. If that's the short summary I could make. Again, same thing. I would start with the problem. You see community and you see violence there. The current measures don't work. You have a new idea. With technology, you may approach this differently. Those are the work packages, steps that you want to take. You may want, or you may have planned to tell me that you need partners to do that together, but I interrupted you before you finished. And the outcome could be to improve community life, or how would you word this last sentence, the outcome? What is the impact? What do you expect after the project to happen?
Actually, what I want to for example, there was a time here that the government said that on the public transportation system, no video. Because we perceive that it has some negative impact on the community or on the people. In a similar manner, I want to see what is the impact of this new technology on the community
So your last
problem.
Your last step in the work program could be to test out and validate this in the community in Jamaica, whether it decreases violence or not.
Yes.
That's a measurable outcome. No?
All right.
Yeah. And the impact, well, you have to describe how you measure this, and how many people in how many communities can be potentially in the future helped with this. So impact is more than the end result of the project. Impact is you have the project, you have a result that after the project you can distribute to other people who can distribute and create impact on a much larger scale. Similarly, if you develop a product in a project, the end of the project could be the prototype of the product. You have not reached any impact yet, but you have created an potential. If you sell the product, you may create a lot of impact later. So that is something to be careful with and how you work. Are you going to solve in this project the whole violence problem of Jamaica? Maybe not. But you have a new approach and you open a new potential to do something about it. If you word it that way, then the funder will know how far you can go. It relates also to the type of funding, but the intention of the funding program is, do they want to have the whole violence problem in Jamaica solved? They probably should come up with quite a substantial amount of money and a long program. Well, if you're asking for a very small seed money just to test out a new concept, then you defend yourself that the scope of the project is appropriate. I'll come back to that in the next slides. Now, please do this kind of exercise among yourself with your scientists and challenge them like I did. But are you really clear? Do I understand what you're saying? Because abstract for a proposal, as you will appreciate, is not an abstract of a scientific paper. Those are two completely different animals. A scientific paper, you want to express your uniqueness, your scientific quality, and that you're completely new in this discovery. And lots of references. But in an abstract of a proposal, you want to convince the evaluator. It's a marketing tool to sell your proposal to the evaluator. That is the purpose of the abstract. And it's a communication tool, because if you prepare a proposal and you send this abstract to the European Commission project officer and say, this is my idea, should this fit in the funding program? They can say yes or no. They will not say, yes, we will fund you, but they may say, yes, this is within the scope of the funding call. Or they may suggest you another call. It's also a communication tool to find other partners. You say, I have this idea, but I cannot do all the steps. Could you perform one of those steps? Then without giving any confidential information of the full proposal, with an abstract, you sort of tease them. And if they say, yes, tell me more, maybe we can do work together with you, then you can send the whole proposal or sign a confidentiality agreement or call them over the phone or whatever. So it's a convincing tool, it's a communication tool, a partner finding tool. It's a way to summarize something non-confidentially about your idea. You can use it in different ways. I see different hands. Yes, please.
Within the context of a proposal, is the abstract to be considered synonymous with the concept note?
Not entirely. The concept note really describes in more detail than an abstract. For most funding agencies, the concept note is a more technical document. 1, 2, 3 pages, almost like an executive summary. While an abstract for most funding agencies is really a marketing tool only, something you put public. Concept note could be confidential. So for me, that is the difference. Not all funding agencies are very clear in how they want to make a distinction between the two. But to me, there I would draw a line. Yes, please.
This is a follow-up to that question, because some requests do not include an abstract. How do you do
Every
that?
single funding agency has their own requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the question was that, as you rightly pointed out, the project has a distinct life cycle. But from the recent experience we had, a major aspect of it was sustainability of the project. How useful is that to include in the abstract?
The sustainability of the project, yes, or of the
action.
The action. Those are two different things.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, this could be part of the work program here, of the work plan. And I will demonstrate to you in the next example. Good projects have one work package or work packages activity that plan for sustainability after the project life is gone. Because no funder wants to invest money in something that afterwards will not survive. You're absolutely right. So you need to plan ahead for life after the project. And that is part of the impact chapter, actually. I will come back to that in actual examples. Any other question right now? Yeah?
When your proposal is not accepted, are you made aware of the reasons why?
I will give you one example of the evaluation in Europe. Not all funding agencies share that with you. In Europe, yes. As evaluators, we are obliged to write a report that's fairly detailed, 2-3 pages, where point per point we really justify why we give a score like that. But there are plenty of funding agencies who say, no, you failed, boom. Which I find unjustified and unfair even. But that's life. Take, for example, the Bill Gates Foundation. Huge amount of money, hundreds, if not thousands of applications. They don't even bother to send you a report. They say, yes, you're invited, or no, you're not invited. Too bad. Other funding agencies have two-step procedures. This is becoming more common in Europe too, where you have a first step with the concept note in a very short version. Usually you don't get very much feedback on that. If you're invited for the second stage, then you get more feedback. So that's the way to limit their work burden too.
But what I'm actually finding is that they're asking for the concept note and full proposal at the same time, and not that you actually just submit a concept note and then they invite you to write a full proposal.
That happens too, which is even more unfair, because then you have to do twice the work. Which actually happened for the ACP program there. We had a concept note and we had to rewrite the same text in much more detail in the second half, and they shelved it until the evaluators approved the concept note. That's
harsh.
Not very friendly. And there's a lot of discussion in Europe about how to improve these processes on the evaluation side. So it's a dynamic field that changes. And funding agencies do learn from each other too. But yeah, it's burdensome. No, I know. Over the years I've been involved in 38 EU projects, European projects, partially as coordinator, partially as partner. I cannot tell you how many proposals I've written that also failed. It happens to everyone. Some agencies allow you to resubmit the next time when the call is open. Others, like the European Commission, have a call only open once. You cannot resubmit exactly the same one. You can sometimes reuse parts of a previous proposal in another form, in another format to another agency. And I think feedback from evaluators is extremely important, because you really learn from this. I remember giving a proposal, sending a proposal, getting very good critical feedback on our proposal. We improved, and the second time we ended up writing the first row. So it really can help you. But yeah, not all funding agencies give that, unfortunately. Now, for more and more funding agencies, and I give here the example from the European Commission, they give scores on the scientific quality and on the implementation and on the impact. For the European Commission, this is equal. So you get one score here, 1 to 5, 5 being the best, and 1 being completely killed. And on implementation, that means on management, on resources, on composition of the consortium, you get also a score of 1 to 5, and that is weighted equally as to the scientific quality and methodology. Now this is important because the scientist usually focuses only on this part. And you have an obligation to help that the budget is appropriate, that the management structure is appropriate, that the collaboration agreements are in place, or that the principles have been laid out, the intellectual property is explained, and that the consortium partners are complete. And I will give you some examples what is considered as complete. And then you get another score for impact. Is it meaningful what you plan to do in the project, and does somebody benefit from it afterwards? And then the 3 scores are added on top of each other. So 3 times 5 is 15 is the maximum score you get. That means you could have a fantastic proposal, scientifically sound, absolutely top, that completely fails here. So please be clear to the scientists that they have to work early enough with you to make sure that these two chapters are on the same quality level. And especially with industrial partners, small medium enterprises, they can help with impact because they are responsible for taking the results to society and innovating if this is applied research. And they should be really active involved in writing their implementation plan. So share the burden. Scientists doing the research, the entrepreneurs focusing on the market and the impact, and you focusing on the budgets and the consortium management.
Well, I can probably share the experience I'm having or have had, where the researchers or the scientists would be saying, look, this is my work, you know. I understand it, you can't understand it, and they don't realize that they have to write it in a way that the lay person can understand it. Just send it off because it's my work and I know what I am doing, and if they want to fund it, they fund it.
Remember, I worked in a clinical environment. Clinicians can be so arrogant. They can be so arrogant. I'm the king in my team. You don't tell me what to do. Oh, yes, absolutely. But the consequence is they don't get the money. So that is your stick behind them. You have to collaborate with us, and we deliver other parts of the proposal as pieces of a puzzle. And the scientific part, or the medical part, or whatever, is only one piece of the puzzle. And that is something that should be made very clear to them. Otherwise, you end up with this type of arrogance. And that leads to nowhere. Yes?
Also, we would treat with the challenge that the recent graduate faces, and I mean recent graduates in the board. The job market requires experience. You don't have any experience because you haven't done a job before. When the funding agency asks for experience of similar actions, and we're short on that.
Can you ask him to speak up?
So it's a catch-22 type of situation that we're in.
Well, there's a very simple thing here.
Execute and you get the money because that's
I'll tell you a little bit when we go through the proposal structure, but there are different ways of expressing your experience. One way is that the actual consortium, the group of partners, is judged, whether they have sufficient experience in-house. So not every single participant alone. That's one step. Second step, the experience of the partner need to be matched with their workload and their tasks. So if a partner is rather junior and they're new to the field, they can explain, look, these laboratory studies, we know, we can do this, and for all other work in the project, we learn from the others. That's perfectly valid. That's not a problem.
But if the junior person is a person with the idea who wants to lead on the project, would it be, my advice would be that if find a senior person and let that person...
For coordinators or leaders, scientific leaders of a project, you need more senior experienced people. And there the judgment is a little bit more severe even. It's not just the scientific leadership, but they also should have the capacity and the experience to lead a project, the management experience, and the financial capacity to lead a project, to distribute large amounts of money between partners. That's also being judged. So a very, very small team in this very small micro-enterprise doesn't have the financial capacity to lead a team with 20 partners and large universities. But it's usually a larger university who acts as the management coordinator. Now, nothing bars from a junior scientist who has the original idea to act as the scientific leader for part of the project. And you have an administrative coordinator who has the capacity to lead a project and distribute the money and organize all the meetings and the reporting. And the scientific leadership could be another part. Just focusing on the scientific discussions or leading in scientific work packages. That's perfectly possible. And I will come back to that in one of the examples. So dividing tasks. As part of the presentation after lunch as well. The message here was just tell your scientists that they're not only their scientific king in the kingdom who's being judged, everybody is judged on multiple parameters. Now, let's have a look at an actual project and to show how do you create impact. This project was, and I was one of the evaluators at the time, that's why I know about it, specific measures for small medium enterprises, where under this sub-program, they're not judged on the scientific content of what they're doing, but the success factor is how do you transfer knowledge to small medium enterprises that do not do research themselves and help them to perform better. Now, the leadership in this particular program is at the SME association level. So there's an association that are small medium enterprises, and they're sitting on a common problem, and the association doesn't do research, but they take the leadership of the project. And under this particular funding instrument, there's 2 to 5 million euro available for 2 or 3 years, where an industrial association, in this case the European Association, takes the leadership with the core group of small medium enterprises who benefit first and test out the new solution. And the solution is being developed by research technology developers, like a research institute or a university. They have the research capacity. Interestingly enough, the aim is to help the SMEs. So at the level of the ownership of the solution lies with the SMEs. The RTD performer, the university research lab, acts as a subcontractor almost. They work on a contract research, they deliver the research which is owned by the company. On the other hand, they get 100% funding. So that's worth it. No? So there's a balance you need to understand, and we will come back with the IPR tomorrow. What is your role? Are you owner of the knowledge, or you're serving the community in this case? Just for your reference, in Europe, the definition of a small medium enterprise may not be that small. It's up to 250 people with a turnover of 50 million euros, which is a bit more than my enterprise. But the third element is equally important. It has to be an independent company. And this may sometimes be a critical element. It has to be less than 250 people and be a reasonable turnover, not too much, and being independent. Independent meaning that it should not be a daughter or a subsidiary of a large multinational. So take Monsanto, huge company. If they have a small office here in Kingston with 10 people, that is not a small medium enterprise. That is part of a multinational. But on the other hand, if you have a spin-off company or a small company on the countryside that is wholly owned by investors, that can be a fully independent enterprise. Investors do not count on this. Okay? Now let's see the project. It's called Space to Tax. I was wondering already when you see that acronym, what could this be? Now this is unusual. It talks about the problem. In just one sentence they explain that there is a problem in the textile industry with wastewater. If you dye your fabrics, then the dye pollutes the water, and the pollution is very difficult to remove. Some of the dyes are toxic or carcinogenic, so there's a problem in society, in the environment. They have an idea to develop a novel concept of wastewater treatment built on knowledge that resides in the European Space Agency. Now, what is the background behind? They explain on the second page. European Space Agency has a multi-million-dollar program to build biofilters, active biomembrane filters, that filter water with 100% efficiency. Extremely high-tech stuff. And they want to use that in a mission to Mars. From here to Mars, there is not really a place where you can tap more water. You have to be really conservative with your water supply. Everybody lives on it. So 100% efficiency. Now nobody is going to fly to Mars. So the idea of this project is to transfer that knowledge into something that can be used right now here on Earth. I'm not talking about the technology, just like the abstract, I'm talking about the output. What is the output? So I skipped the technical part of the proposal. Last pages talk about impact. They say, well, the economic benefits of such and so, water, energy savings, sludge left over, we don't have to recuperate, we can save a lot of money on environmental taxes. So the companies actually are much better off with these kind of filters. There are strategic and social benefits. Has nothing to do with the economy, but of the company itself. But you create a new market because somebody has to make these membranes and sell them to the textile companies. So you create a new market that did not exist before. And they actually suggested or calculated roughly that this would be a value of 165 million euro per year and create about 12,000 jobs over time. Now, that raises your attention as an evaluator. You say, you invest maybe 2 million euro, 1 million euro in this project, and you build this value over time. That's impressive. And then, of course, there's some energy savings and Kyoto Treaty benefits. Those are nice add-ons. But this is the core, and that is the core.
We'd have to demonstrate, perhaps a little fuller document, how those quantities will be realized.
You saw the next slide. No, indeed. Because this is what they promise. What an evaluator will think is exactly what you're asking.
Yes.
How are you going to do this? You can promise heaven on earth, but you need a plan. And that is the core of the impact chapter. So thank you, Martin. Indeed, this is the structure, how they want to disseminate and exploit the results in this case. They have a small group of researchers who transfer this technology from a space membrane, if you like, to a membrane that is cheap enough and robust enough and can be manufactured for textile industry. Then they have a small group of SMEs who test it out and they validate the concept. But they did not stop there, because otherwise you transfer from here to there. And that's very limited impact. No, the association as leader actually opened websites, workshops, and they reached out to all the textile industries in Europe. So the association has a dissemination role, and they get a budget for this, a very significant budget, if I remember well. Almost half of the budget of the project was in this case for the association, to make sure that all the other partners, all the other companies know about the solution, are ready to buy these membranes and adopt the technology. Because it's one thing to develop the technology, and it's the second thing, let people adopt it. That requires effort. And it's more than just marketing effort. You need to convince people. So that is part of the project. And then they talk about conferences and publications to the general public too. So the dissemination is not only to the SMEs, but also the public at large. Politicians, that this is helping the environment. Politicians to tell them that jobs are created and that these companies are saving the world. Well, you know the message. Journalists, they love to hear these stories. It's the association who has the responsibility to do that, not the university. See? Division of roles. And there's budget for this. Now this is a way to actually implement impact. And you need to convince the evaluators that this is the way to do this. So I gave this example because it's a very simple example to understand, but you can understand that you can translate the same principles in your own projects and plan ahead. Not everything you have to do inside the project, at least you should have a plan. What is the rollout plan after the project? Now planning, I'll give you a couple of checklists that you can use in taking the next step to converting concepts into proposals. And one of them is really this key home message that I gave this morning. How do you add value to society? That should be the strategic vision. And everybody should have their own role and their own task to achieve that. This I'll skip because that is what I explained this morning already, but you find the details here. There's one little tip that I can give you, is that please tell your scientist or yourself to register yourself also as expert for the European Commission. You can act and be invited as an evaluator yourself. Not only because you're good in science, but also because you have seen policy impact papers, you know about the research policies in your countries, you know about the environmental backgrounds, you know about management principles, about science publications and presentations. Each of you have different background and experience that goes beyond the science in the lab. So if you have that experience, just write it down in this database. It's free, no obligations, and the European Commission is constantly looking for experts from outside Europe to help to judge and evaluate proposals that involve Caribbean scientists or that are focused on environmental or health problems that are outside Europe. For all these international cooperation projects, they need external experts. If you get invited to act as an evaluator, they will send you first a contract, it's paid, and then you're being paid for the number of days that you work, and you're being paid to come to Brussels to meet the other evaluators. And I will tell you in a minute how that works. €450 per day plus travel and expenses and all that. But the real benefit is that you learn from other evaluators, and that is even more valuable than the workshops I give you. You learn and practice with your own expertise. So please do that. This is what we did earlier this morning already, so I will skip it. But it's a little checklist. Really read the calls together with your scientists and brainstorm. And I will give you a tool how to brainstorm in a meaningful way, in a focused way, to convert an idea into a proposal. The next couple of slides are for your reference to explain the background of the health program. So I will give you the work program draft for health. The deadlines for health are, as I said, in autumn and winter. For the food and agriculture, it's winter until February. And there's a lot of SME involvement in each of these. They explain a little bit what the structure of the health program is: biotechnology for health, translating research for health, optimizing delivery of healthcare. Those are the 3 blocks in the health work program. And then the Innovative Medicine Initiative is a program I can tell you about later. It's strictly outside the Framework 7, but they do work together with these programs. So please be aware that this exists for innovation in healthcare. And the budget only for health is quite substantial. This year only 60 million. So these are the topics. That's an example of one of the calls. So this is on cancer for this particular case. And these are some of the elements that you can use if you talk with SMEs, why they should benefit. There are many more, but these are slides that you can use in your presentation. Again, there's some complexity and longer duration, and you need to find partners, but these are the benefits that counterweight the difficulties in these projects. I just want to zip a little bit through to the next presentation, because that presentation has this project structure and an exercise actually how to get to that structure. So we're here in the second part. I'll share with you an exercise on how to build the proposal structure of the grant proposal and some do's and don'ts through the eyes of an evaluator. That's another checklist. If you convert an idea, like website, concept, into a full proposal, there are a number of elements, building blocks that you need. One of the building blocks is a sufficiently complementary partnership. Most technologies cannot be brought to the market by just one single entity one single institute. Usually you have different disciplines working together, but also different experiences, like basic research, applied research, actual prototype building, and marketing. So those are different tasks, and I will come back to that tomorrow if we talk about expectation. This work, I will have 2 slides on, and that's a very specific thing. How far do you want to go in the project itself? And that determines what the partners and their role are. If you want to develop a solution that changes society completely, you probably need a lot of partners and a lot of different tasks and roles. If you have a fairly simple project, the partnership can be much simpler. And that determines your resources. So the checklist here is not just at random. It's really step 1, 2, 3, 4. You start with the abstract, then you build, based on the scope, you build your partnership and you agree who does what, and that determines what your resources will be. You cannot start starting with a budget if you don't know how many partners will be partnering with. And that determines how complex your governance will be. And I will give you some examples. With 2, 3 partners working together, it can be fairly informal. The moment that you work with businesses, if you work with 10 partners, you need more formal structures. So that is governance and decision-making structures are really important. And they grow with the complexity of the project, including reporting. And then the work plan. Only if you have this in place, you can really line out all the work packages. Not all the work packages are scientific. Some work packages relate to management, to dissemination, to communication, to intellectual property management, to resource building, training. So you have more work packages than the scientists are involved in. And this is part of your task as well, to suggest additional work packages or scrap ones that are redundant or duplicating efforts. And then you work with time planning, and I will show you examples of that in a minute. And finally, write the impact sector together with your industrial partners. So what you need to do all this is a roadmap. Because if your deadline of the funding call is, say, December this year, and you get the details of the funding call in July, you have 6 months to work. So you work back. You say, if December is the deadline, the 1st of December, my proposal needs to be completed, ready. And then you can fine-tune and do target. That means that in November you need to build up these parts. And maybe in October already have lined up all the work packages with all your partners. That means that in September you need to have identified all the partners and made agreements who does what. And I'm talking about budget. That means that in July and August you need to find partners. See? You need to make a time planning, a roadmap for building a proposal backwards. And that is really critical, because otherwise we end up in the common solution that is also a situation that always happens 2 weeks before the deadline. Help! This happens all the time. And too many good proposals lose because of that. Lack of time at the very end. In the end, it's not lack of time, it's planning.
What you just described is good project management from the very inception.
Yeah.
See, it doesn't work very well though in our reality. I mean, we have to keep it together. It just gets delayed until the 11th hour.
There will always be delays.
No matter how much the manager steals the roadmap, right?
I've never seen a project without delays. So, this is a slide about scope. It's a little joke here, but actually this is an illustration from an actual project, believe it or not. This was in the, I don't even remember, it was in the early 80s, I think, or late 70s. It was a huge aerospace industry project, huge consortium, to build a new next generation airplane. We made the illustration as a summary of the situation. What happened is that they actually got the funding from private investors, even some public money. They got all kinds of industries and academic institutes involved to build bits and pieces, and they got the money and they had a kickoff meeting. Everybody was very enthusiastic. They said, yes, we are going to build this airplane. Wow. Everybody split apart, and they started to do their own thing in their own institutes. So somebody built this motor, another built the wings, and the third one thought that they were doing a military plane development. They started building the armory and all kinds of things. After a year, they had the first project management board meeting, and they put the pieces together, and they don't fit. Why? Because they really did not have the discussion up front. What kind of airplane, who are the users, how big will it be, is it for military purposes or just a small airplane or a big one? What are the characteristics and how do the parts fit together? So if the guy building the wings doesn't even talk about the guy building the structure, of course they will develop two different things. They need to have communication lines in between. So management is also about ensuring that everybody knows exactly what is expected from them in technical requirements, and make sure that they have communication in time, not afterwards, because you lose a whole year and a lot of effort and delays if you don't communicate up front. Do not assume that the other receiving party understands exactly what you are going to deliver. So that is a management issue. And this determines how many meetings you will have, how many communication, teleconferences or whatever, and which detail you need to exchange with each other. Because everybody can agree, yes, we build an airplane, but if you don't dig into the details, you will end up in trouble. So that's another checklist here. Methodologies. Converting an idea first. Really discuss that final objective. What is your end goal? Develop that summary together with your partners, not with you alone behind the computer. It's an active activity. Maybe a joint meeting before you start writing a proposal. Have to call the partners together if you can, in a teleconference or even physically, and then work through the exercise that I will do with you in a minute. Find partners to form the consortium, divide the roles, then develop the structure. Only after you've done this, then develop the structure and work packages. Maybe go back if you miss certain expertise. Jointly, then say, okay, now we need a missing partner to fill in that gap. Only then start writing the proposal, because I've seen so many times that scientists start writing the proposal, then they say, okay, we need a partner. And the partner says, oh, but that's not my proposal. So they need to go back to step one, to agree what they want to do together, and then rewrite the proposal again. That's stupid. Just first do this, and then start writing the proposal in a structured way, and you gain a lot of time that way. You don't write unnecessary things. Don't forget this part. Executing project management, communication lines, proper meetings during the project ensure progress and success. And time to close the project. Because the last few months of a project need time to transfer this to the next project or to other partners. You need to plan time and budget for that too. So this is the exercise I was talking about. And given the time, we cannot spend hours on it, although I would love to do this the way I would like to do it, is to take this 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 sheets of paper, put them on the wall, tape them on the wall, and then have in small groups fill out each of these questions on the pieces of paper, or the actual project that you're working on. And then gather later, I don't know, Martin, do we have time for this, or is it too short? We have an alternative. If time is too short, we can do it differently. If you copy down, or if we could print this one page, perhaps, and then you do homework tonight on the project. You fill out the questions and we discuss it tomorrow.
Personalize, don't do the big ones.
Let's do that. Then we have a living discussion tomorrow as well, with some tangible projects to work on. Let me briefly guide you through this, because what I did when I designed this tool first was actually to write these questions on a piece of paper on the wall, and then we had in small groups people working on an actual project and filling in all these questions. And then we got with the rest of the group, we walked along the wall and they had to explain why and what they actually wrote down. In another workshop, somebody had done this electronically, so we prepared a mini presentation in PowerPoint with 7 slides with the answers, and that was very much fun as well. Somebody presenting this in a group. You will find that if somebody actually struggles with a question, it's so good to do this in a group, because by asking the question, how would you describe this, you teach each other. So this is, I would highly recommend to print out this one page, probably in a few slides, if you like. The reasoning behind this exercise, because the questions are not just at random. You can change the exercise, you can add in questions, etc. But to me, these are the core first questions that at least should be there. And that is first, what I said earlier in the slides this morning. What is the problem you want to address, and what is the scope? In the case of the airplane, are you just developing a new motor, or are you developing a new airplane, or a platform for new airplanes? That's a different scope. Second, what do you want to do inside the project? What is your role in the project? Or what is the role of the consortium in this project, while there may be project 2 and 3 and 4 later? So what do you want to do in this project? And what is your end point? What do you want to achieve in this project? That is important for the evaluator to know. But it's also important for the next question. By describing this carefully, you define how you want to implement it. If you define very focused here, your implementation of how you want to do it is easier. Let's imagine another example here. If your problem is a disease and you need better diagnostics, currently nobody can really diagnose patients in this case. So the scope is define a better diagnostic means with this group of patients. What do you want to do? Well, design a diagnostic test with requirements of it needs to be cheap, it needs to be good for these patients, validated, and needs to be easy to distribute. For example, a test that can be carried out in rural communities instead of in a laboratory. That is also what you want to do. So that is the achievements. The end result should be a device or a test that can be used in a rural environment for these particular patients. How you want to do that? Well, those are steps 1, 2, 3. First, you need to analyze what is the disease, caused the virus or bacterium, how you detect the bacterium, which markers do you use, which device do you use, do you use a 2-step, first a laboratory test, and then you miniaturize into a small thing that you can carry out in the community. Those are the details of the technology plan. And you see here underneath, I've said here this is the project problem definition, but in this part you already start activities about analyzing the problem with your expertise, mapping out existing solutions and see where you can improve, and develop your new solution. These are very generic words. Why? Because this methodology applies to any research subject. If you have a policy research, you analyze the existing policies, you map out the missing policies, and you develop a new policy. Same approach as you would do in the lab. Now, next, because we're talking about science, you need to test and validate your solution. So, where do you want to act and when? With which patient groups, or if you're doing policy research, how do you do surveys and make sure that with interviews the stakeholders are committed to adopt these policies? Are they meaningful? The governments and other policies interfering with what you propose, or do they actually help each other? It's common if you have health policy that is not implemented because the financial policy is interfering or not supporting at all. There's no budget, yes, it's nice to have a policy but you cannot implement. So you need the commitment of other stakeholders at this point as well. Who and where to act. And then after validating, sometimes you have to redevelop something to improve better. First trial, this is science. First trial never succeeds. So you have to go back. Screening for drugs, you test it out in animals, it doesn't work. You screen with different parameters until you have the right one. Then you validate in patients. Maybe the drug works in animals, but not in patients. or in one group of patients, but not all groups of patients. So that is part of the validation. And then you need to upscale. As I said, a drug or a diagnostic test can work in one group of patients, but maybe not in Europe or in Africa or in Asia, because they have a different genetic makeup. Or patients who are young, old, pregnant. That is upscaling too. If you're doing a survey for political, social research in one target group of patients of people, the same survey may not be possible to conduct in a completely different population. So maybe you need to adapt your survey so that you can upscale to larger populations or in different countries, different communities. You may have to readapt your original survey or question. If you do a database with data and you want to upscale by connecting databases from different sources, you may have to reconstruct your database. So upscaling is not an easy thing, and it requires sometimes, again, research. And this is what companies face. Companies face with something that you have developed in a research environment, and maybe it's not even useful for them, because the upscaling is not possible. Or the target group is not the right one. The target group is completely different than what the scientists have in mind. So those are questions that are really relevant for the research. Upscaling should be allowed by what you develop here. And there should be communication back and forth so that the expectations here are matched. And then usually you have these work packages about dissemination, exploitation, commercialization. I keep normally the activities in separate work packages. Don't mix those with the scientific work packages and the research. It's easier to administer and report, and the budgets are separate that way as well. So if you have these structure of work packages deriving from the answers to the questions you have here, then already you have your architecture of your proposal. No? You will recognize some of these immediately. And different partners have different roles. So the scientific partners will mostly be active here, while the coordinator and the leader may be active in one of those, not necessarily, but certainly is active here and there. The industry partners are expected to be active here and there, but at least they need to communicate with the scientists here. So they need to attend meetings, even though they don't do the research. I'll come back to that in the afternoon again. So please use this in different ways with your scientists, go through actual projects and see where the gaps are. And then decide how many work packages you want to have. Maybe during lunch we can print this out. Is that possible?
We'll try.
We'll try.
It's only one page then.
It's printed back to the office. Yes. It's on a stick.
Is someone a jump drive?
I have it on my hard drive, but I have a stick with me. So
Yeah.
we can go. Okay. This is a non-technical slide, but really, well, most of you probably know this, but please use it with your scientists. Think of the poor evaluator. The poor guy or girl sitting on a desk with 60 proposals, each 80 pages. There's 500 pages to each. That's not fun. And say 5 hours. The way evaluators read through proposals, as I said, they start with an abstract. If they are being motivated and enthusiastic, then they start reading the rest. But everybody has their own way of navigating through a proposal. And hardly anybody that I know is reading from page 1 to page 60. They don't. They look at the structure, they look at the table, they look at the content table, then zip through, take another piece, they skip back and forth.
10 minutes.
And please help them to navigate. So use graphics, tables, charts, summarize, bullet points, not endless pieces of text. I mean, imagine, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you have read so many proposals, you get this 80 pages, unformatted text, so block text, letters.
That's dead.
That is horrible. I mean, really. The classics thing, not endless literature references. All scientists, they love to show their literature references, but a proposal is not a scientific paper. One or two key references you may insert there if they're absolutely essential, but please keep it to the absolute minimum. Most funding agencies now also have their proposals read electronically, so use web links so that people can find background information on the web. And usually evaluators take the time. Do not expect evaluators to surf for 5 or 6 hours on the internet to find the information. It's your obligation to deliver all the relevant information in the proposal. And only if they're curious to know, they may find supplementary information. But evaluators in Brussels are very strictly organized, and they say you only judge what is in the proposal. So try also to be complete, but concise, and don't elaborate 20 pages on something you can't say in 2. Finally, get the professional help to improve structure and missing elements, and you have a role here to provide that professional help to your scientists and colleagues. Or ask an experienced colleague who has done it before. Right? Somebody who has written an NIH grant, they know the structure, they can read through it, and they say, oh, but you have missed that one chapter, or you did not touch on this element, or the budget is not clear enough. You need much more detail there. So ask your fellow scientists, even if they're abroad, to have briefly have a look at the part of the proposal. And not only your colleagues, but also use students or administrative support office to look for typos, to look for formatting, and save the time on the scientific content to use so that they can support in other ways. Content references, web links, etc. So involve your students to help with those tasks. While they are doing that, they learn how about the structure of the proposal. I have, in my scientific group, research group, I have young scientists who are working for their PhD developing the budget. I said, you can write part of the science, and then it's your responsibility to make the first version of a budget. I will correct and add in other things and change, but you think of the first version, first draft. And then they start sweating, and I don't know. And they say, yeah, you find out, you ask the price of a substitute, and you look at the internet for the price of such a thing, and you ask the HR department for the salary of a young student or a young scientist. And they get a task, a responsibility. Next time they can write part of the proposal better, and that saves you time to finalize the quality. Defining role. Besides, it's important for their career, so that after they have done their degree, they can write their own grants. So don't keep everything in your office only, spread the task a bit. But keep one person as the final quality check. That's important. I said this already, but one other thing is you can use the national contact points in Europe and in some other countries, not here in Jamaica as far as I know, but your partners in Europe will have national contact points who can double check through proposals. And they will see not whether it's a good proposal, but whether it fits with the call. So they can give it advice on one other thing here. Yeah, national contact points. And if you look at the Cordis website that I showed you this morning, there's a list of all the national contact points in all the countries.
In Jamaica, it's the SRC.
Is it?
Yeah.
SRC?
Right.
Okay. Excellent. Not all countries have one, so that's good. They are appointed to discuss with the European Commission, so they can also give you feedback on the progress of evaluation. This is an important one. Trust your coordinator. If your coordinator is a European institute, you're depending on him or her to defend your rights. In the negotiations, if they don't know you, if they don't trust you, they may not defend your rights and you may end up with budget cuts. So it's in your own interest to build up a good relationship with the scientific leader, coordinator. And the best way to do that, to be proactive. You write your parts in advance of the deadline. You ask whether you can help with writing the proposal in different ways. Take off some of the burden from the coordinator. you can do that and help them. And that way you build. The coordinator on his or her part will immediately learn during the proposal development who is the active partner and who is just sitting there and doing nothing. And that already determines the atmosphere of the kick-off meeting. From who are the core partners which are eager to contribute, and the partners who are just sitting there and enjoying life and let other people work. So those human aspects are quite important in the stress of developing a proposal. Now the rest of the slides I can briefly zip through because it's really as a reference of what are the structures. I just want to pick out a few so that you know what is in there. When I have time to, Martin, is to at 1?
12:30.
12:30, I'm behind already.
I might consider it. What is the group I decided to go to?
Just the group.
Yeah? I can do this within 10 minutes, so it's not a problem, 5 maybe. The proposal for the European Commission has 2 parts. Part A is just the administrative details, but please be careful because there may be mistakes. So do check. You can find there's the famous abstract again. Define department details and your responsibility to check your details. The coordinator may make mistakes. If you have this personal identification code and your institute registered, it's filled in automatically. What is not filled in automatically is the budget. So please be sure that the final proposal submitted contains your budget and not a cut budget. That happens all the time. And the structure of the technical part of the, and this is for most proposals. Again, what I said earlier this morning, the applicant guide will give the actual form. Every single call has their own form. So this is the basic structure, and you will recognize the 3 criteria on which they are being developed. So they follow the evaluation criteria. A very small thing, please add a page number and acronym on every page. I had the instance where we had an evaluation in the old days where it was not electronic. Everything was printed out, which is still the case. In the evaluation in Brussels, it printed out. The staples fell off. Of a few proposals, everything was mixed on the floor. It was impossible to retrieve. So simple things like that can make life really difficult. Here in the scientific quality chapter, you explain these things, what you are going to do, how this is new and goes beyond the state of the art. And the evaluator will actually read through this that way, just diagonally. And they just look, have you substantiated your proposal with facts and figures? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what happens out there in other institutes who's working in the field? Do you list your objectives clearly enough? The second chapter on the management structure describes these procedures and structures. You know this is nothing new. But it's your responsibility to double check proposals that are submitted by your scientists to see whether there is a contingency plan. What happens if you don't discover what you plan to discover? This is science. You don't know exactly what you're going to discover. Otherwise it would not be science, no? So what do you do? What is your contingency plan B? Explain that. Usually that focuses on reusing the same knowledge that you have discovered in a different direction. Knowledge can be used in many different ways. So it's, make sure that if you do something that not all is lost, that you can reuse that knowledge in a different direction. By the other means, you have to adjust how you assess quality. How do you control and make sure that the quality is good enough? Well, the complementarity between the partners, as I said, the example this morning with the cake, you need flour, you need water, you need eggs, what else? So you need different ingredients. In the same way, the different partners have different qualities they bring into the mix. So no duplication of efforts and partners. And everything should be there, otherwise you have not a good cake. Well-balanced composition. Now this is just a background, you probably know that, work packages, milestones, Most proposals use this kind of form. For the work packages, each work package has a form like this, where you describe in the work package what is the intent to do, how you want to do it, and what is the outcome in terms of deliverables. Now, an evaluator will read this in a very specific way. They see, okay, this is the technical detail, but how much person months are they going to use, and who is involved in this? In this particular case, this is a work package on coordination management. The coordinator has the bulk of the work, but you see that the other partners are involved in coordination too. Why? This is the time they need to sit in together on the project meetings and to deliver their parts of the reports. They need time and effort for that, so plan some effort there. And then the deliverables, they're numbered, and the deliverables like outcome reports, conferences, actual materials developed, they go into the contract. So be careful with the wording of your deliverables, but that is what you legally will promise to deliver. So be careful with that. It has a legal consequence in the end. If you say we are going to deliver or test with 600 patients, if you cannot find 600 patients and you do the test with 550,